Hello, this is Mr. Jarrett, and in this video tutorial, we are going to be 3D modeling all of the parts for this planter box and then assembling it. So first, we need to understand that everything is in IPS or inches. All of the objects that we are going to make are oak, except for the roof. That is a little tin roof. Up here, you can see it's a different color in the picture, and that roof I give you. It's provided for you, just to make things go a little bit faster. So all of the parts are down here. You can see it has a part number, so you can actually tell by the balloons of what is what. It has a number or name, okay, for all of them, and then the sizes. Now it says quantity, and some of you might get overwhelmed and say, wow, we got a 3D model 4 of these and 4 of these and 2 of these. No, 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 no. They're all the exact same thing. So once you make one side, you just bring it in 4 times to your assembly. Same thing with the end. You bring it in 4 times to your assembly. So you only have to model each one of these one time. And if you look down through, you can kind of see that all of it is 3/4 of an inch, and a lot of it is 3.5. So standard measurements here, things that are really quick to model. So I would recommend pulling this to your other screen, and I'm going to do the same thing. And then in SolidWorks, we want to start a new part, make sure that we are in inches, and we're going to sketch just right here on the front plane. Okay. Now the first thing that I'm going to sketch is just the side, so I'm going to go straight down through. And if you kind of think a little bit ahead, you can see that the side here, number one, that's this piece that's going this way. So say we're looking at it on this angle from the front view. I'm going to try to 3D model some of these objects in the actual orientation that they're in, because it's going to save time later on when we go to assemble it. So since it's going to the left, let's just make the origin down the bottom left-hand corner and 3D model it that way. Okay. So we're just going to use the rectangle tool, click on your origin and move over. And then you can start to dimension this. And it says that it is 3.5 tall and it's 27.5 long. 3.5 tall, 27.5 long. Then you can go to the features tab and hit extrude, and it's 3/4 of an inch. And it doesn't matter if you go forward or backwards. So green check. And let's change this to oak. If yours is not a default, you need to go into edit material and all the way down to the woods folder, but mine is a default. So then we can go file, save as. And you're going to save this into your planter box. Now I already have all of the files made, but I'm just going to create another folder. So if you don't have a planter box folder, you should probably do that. And I'll just create a little folder in here, and I'll name this what it is. So this is the side. Save. Now instead of closing out of this and starting an all new file, I am just going to edit this. So I'm going to edit my sketch, and I'm just going to kind of fix up some of these things. So the end is 3/4 of an inch or 3.5 tall, but since it's going a different orientation, since it's going back this way, that means I'm actually drawing on this face right here. Okay, so that means instead of this being 27.5, we need to make this 3/4 of an inch. So you see what I mean? So then we hit the green check, and that is our sketch. So we're going to have to return from our sketch, but now we need to edit our extrusion. So if you don't like this, if you don't want to do it this way, you can just close out each time, but I think it's easy. So I'm going to make this 8 because those are my 3 measurements that it gives me. That's already oak. So make sure you don't hit save. You want to hit save as, and then you're going to name this end. Okay. And I'll right click and edit my sketch. And my front leg is straight up and down. So that means the measurement here needs to be 3.5. And the height is going to be 20. Okay, so now it's tall. Hit return from your sketch, edit your extrusion, and make this 3/4 of an inch. and save this as front leg. And then we can edit our sketch. And this says back leg is 32 tall. Still 3.5 wide, so we just hit return. And the back leg actually has a point to it. So the back leg, as you can kind of see, I'll bring this back over to this screen. The back leg is number 4. Number 4 has this point up at the top. That means it's 32 to the top here. So we do have to do some editing. So I already got out of my sketch, so I actually need to go back into my sketch. And let's go up here and kind of fix this part up. So I just use my line tool, just draw a little triangle up here at the top, go right to that midpoint. Okay, let's make both of these equal to one another. And let's make them perpendicular. So you see it's already black. So now we can just go and we're going to actually have to delete this dimension. So let's just delete this. And then we can trim. Make sure it's set to trim to closest. And trim, trim, trim. Might give us that warning because we actually attach it to the midpoint. Oh well, we'll figure that out now. So we're done trimming. So we want this part from the very point all the way down to the very bottom, that to be 32. Let's see if this is still not fixed up. So in order for this to be fixed, you can kind of see it can wiggle back and forth. So if we just take that dot, hold in shift, select this dot, and say they're horizontal from one another, it'll fix that. Now we can hit return. And it's already 3/4 of an inch, so this is good. So we can go File, Save As, and this is going to be the back leg. Okay, now we're on the back middle, so we just have to edit the sketch. And the back middle is just 28 tall, so this is the only thing we have to change. Hit return, and we can now save this. This is the back middle leg. And then save or edit this sketch one more time, and now we're on the back medium, and this is 24. Turn from your sketch, File, Save As, and this is the back medium leg. Now we're at the actual bird house itself. So I'm still gonna just edit this, and the actual bird house is 6 inches tall. So I'll just change this to 6, zoom in here. It says it's still 3.5 wide, but it has a little circle here. Now, looking at my directions at the top part of my directions, it also says this piece that we're drawing has a 1 inch in diameter, and it's in the middle of the section. So it's a 1 inch hole right in the middle. Okay. So an easy way of just putting this right in the middle, if I just get my line tool and change it to for construction, go from this corner to this corner, and then from this corner to this corner, I have my middle. And actually, I didn't even need to do that second one because I had my midpoint. So just to show you what I mean, I'll just delete that. I have my midpoint right here. Okay, so I just put my circle tool, move my mouse over that midpoint, draw out my circle, and then dimension this thing to 1 inch. Okay, now hit return. And there I have my birdhouse. So we can go File, Save As. Then the roof, like I said, is provided for you. So the last thing we need to do is the bottom. So let's just edit this. I'm going to delete that circle. I'm going to delete this construction line. Maybe just delete the whole entire thing. That might just be easiest. And the bottom is going sideways. So let's just draw a big rectangle this way and dimension that thing. So this is, since it's sideways, this is going to be 3/4 of an inch tall. And the length of all of these are 27.5. 27.5. And hit return from your sketch. And we need to edit the extrusion. And the extrusion needs to be 2.5. Okay, so you can see with the board that we just made going in the orientation that we want it to be. Let's go File, Save As, and name this bottom. So that's the first part of all this, is drawing every one of those files. And we just drew all 8 that we needed to. The roof we already have provided for us. So we can close out of that. And now we are going to start an assembly. So you can go up to File, New, and select Assembly and hit OK. And it's going to ask you what files you want to bring in. I'm going to recommend only building this in pieces. So a lot of people would bring in all of these files, but then you got a whole bunch of stuff on your computer screen all at once. I'm going to build just this bottom part of the basket first with all of the little bottom pieces. And then you're going to see I'm going to create what's called a subassembly to create this top piece. Then I'll bring in the different legs and all of that stuff. Okay, so take it in bits, like little pieces here. So what we actually need is number 2, which is the side. Okay, so we want the side. And we also need, I'm trying to find it here, number 1, sorry. We need the side and the end. Okay, and hit open. Click to place these. So the very first one that you put in, if you named them what they're actually named, is the end. So that is currently fixed in place, and that's okay. I'm going to pull this back over here so you can kind of see. It's very hard to see this. I'll try to zoom in a little bit more, which I know that didn't do much. But this end piece does not go on the end. It actually goes in between these two front and back boards. So you can see it a little bit better over there. So it goes in between the two. So that means that this goes something like that. Okay, so since we already drew these in the current orientation they need to be in, this is going to be really easy. So just get your mate and click on the top, click on the top. Okay, click on the outside and the outside. And then we need to glue these two together. So there, and it snapped it together. Okay. Then to bring in other parts, you could either do Insert Component, or you just hold in Control, click and drag, and now we're good. Okay, so let's do the other long piece here. So mate, and we'll just do the tops again. We'll do this side and the end, and then the ends of them. Okay. Now I could do this piece. So I'm just kind of repeating my steps over and over. Even though this is something that's very simple to do, as far as meaning like the whole planter box, it's good that you get in the habit of constantly repeating simple steps like this so that you start to learn and get in the groove of understanding the mate tool. Now, if you messed up anywhere, you clicked at the wrong place, remember each one of these files that are inserted in here do have a folder underneath them that say mates in assembly, and you can actually see where you made it. So if something's giving you warnings or going wrong, go in here and find which one it is and maybe just delete it, or you can edit it. I don't think you're going to have to flip the mate alignment if you drew them how I drew mine. You also have a folder down here that records all of them, but I think it's much harder to find sometimes. So now that we have this base, that's pretty easy. We can select all of these. So I just clicked the first one, held in Shift, and clicked the last one. I'm going to right click and create a new subassembly, or form a new subassembly. So basically this is a assembly inside an assembly. So this whole entire thing can now move as one. So it kind of unfixes it, even though it says this one's fixed. So if we go up here now and we just right click and fix one of these, okay, or actually you have to fix the entire subassembly. So right click on the subassembly and hit fix, Now the whole thing's kind of stuck. Okay, so let's put in our bottom boards next. And for our bottom boards, we need to insert a component, and we actually need the bottom. So hit open, put that in. And this is going to be easy as well. This first one kind of just gets lined up right here. So we can just use the mate tool and just click on the outsides. And then this outside. And then we got to add glue in between. So basically clicking there and clicking here. Now, if you have no clue what I'm talking about of gluing in between, I'm basically saying you just need these two touching. Okay, so out here we made them flush. In between we basically added fake glue in between, just put them together. Okay, now we want two more underneath here, two more. But I'm not going to waste my time inserting and doing all of those three things at one time. So I'm going to use the linear component. Okay, linear component pattern. So I'll select that, and then where it says direction 1, I just need to click on a line that's going in that direction, and then just look at the little arrow. So if the arrow is pointing this way, you're good. If it's not, you just hit the reverse, as you can kind of see. So mine still says I'm in millimeters because my thing is in this custom. I forgot to change it. Yours might be in inches. If yours is in inches, you're good. I'm going to have to hit exit and change mine to inches. Now I can go back into that linear component, and I actually want 3 of these. Okay, I need to set my direction again, so I do want it going this way. And for the piece, components to pattern, I need to select the part. So I clicked in this box for components to pattern, select the bottom piece. You can kind of see it moves them over, but we need it to be even on this outside. So if each one of these pieces are 2.5 wide, 2.5 here, and this piece is 8 inches plus 3/4 plus 3/4, so 8 plus 3/4 and 3/4, that would be 9.5. So 9.5, just kind of show you this, and maybe I can work it out in my head so I don't mess this up. 9.5 minus the bottom piece is 2.5. Okay, and we need that subtracted again and again because there's 3 of them. So basically 2 inches. So if each one needs to be, if we need a space in between here and here, that means we need to divide that by 2. So obviously 2 inches divided by 2 is 1. So let's see if I did all of this correct. That would mean that this needs to go over not only the distance of this one piece, but also the distance of the in-between gap. So that would be 2.5 plus 1, so that's 3.5. And yeah, I did my math correct. So as you can kind of see, it lines that up. Now, some of you might just say, well, this was stupid. Why didn't you just insert the other ones? Because I just want to show you new things. So I'm going to hit the green check. Now it's linear and pattern. It's all in there, and there's the gaps that you need. Perfect. Okay. So now that you've seen the linear component, and we have a little subassembly here, I'm going to do the exact same thing for this and just raise it up. So linear component pattern. For my direction, I'm going to select this line, and notice it's putting it going down. We want it to be going up. We'll change this to 2, and it still has my local pattern, meaning the base. We don't want that, so let's just deselect that. And I'll hit my drop down here, and I'll select the sub-assembly. All right, so the sub-assembly. So you can see right now they're touching with this measurement. So once again, I'm going to kind of do a little bit of math for you. This shows that it is 8 3/4 tall, 8 3/4 tall from the very bottom all the way up to the very top. So let's do a little bit of math just to kind of show you this. So the bottom board here is 3/4 of an inch. This thing is 3.5 tall, so 3.5 plus 3/4. Okay, plus we have another board up here is 3.5. So that's 7.75. So if it says it is 8 3/4 tall, that means obviously we have an inch left that we need. So we not only need the height of this board, we also need that 1 inch gap. So that's going to be 3.5 plus the 1 inch gap, so 4.5. Okay, so let's change this to 4.5. All right, so 4.5, we have that gap, hit the green check. And now just to double check this, we want to go over to the Evaluate tab, and this is something good to learn. The measurement tool, if you've never used this yet, it's like a little tape measure. So you probably will have to use this in your final exam. But this just allows you to double check everything. So this is actually how I come over and problem solve or grade your test to help you out if you have something wrong. You just click on a surface, rotate around, click on another surface, and it will tell you the distance. So 8 3/4. Just to kind of keep teaching you this tool, although we are correct. If you want to keep going, you just click off and then you can start again and you can figure out other distances. Okay, so that's how the measurement tool works as well. But that easy, we have this base built. So I would recommend saving it right here just because SOLIDWORKS likes to crash when you have a lot of stuff going on, and we've already been at this for almost 20 minutes. So go ahead and save it. And I'll just name this planner box. And we already know it's the assembly, so that's fine. And I'm going to hit external, okay, or actually internal. So this is asking us what do we want this sub-assembly. So we want it to be internal, because if you hit external, it would create a whole nother assembly file in your folder, and we don't want that. We want internal. Hit OK. And now we can go back to the assembly tab, insert component. Let's do the little front legs. So front leg, open. Okay, and once again, it's in that nice orientation that we already had. So make the tops even. Rotate around here, make the outsides even. Okay, and then if it's inside your part like this, just pull it away and add that glue like I was talking about in between. So you want them touching right there. Okay. Now I think it's pretty easy to just bring in another leg and put it over here. But I do want to show you something again. I just want to keep teaching you. So if we had a plane that went through the middle of this, we could just mirror this thing over. So normally you have these planes up here, but since we didn't kind of mate one around any of them, we can't use any of these unless we unfix this and kind of move things around. But I'll just show you how to create your own plane. It's just as easy. So reference geometry plane. And just like when we were working in part files, it's asking you your different references. So if we click the far outside, rotate around and click the other opposite side, it'll put a plane right in the middle. And then under where it says linear component pattern, there's mirror. So hit mirror, and it's already got our plane selected. We want this part, the front leg, green check, and it should move it right over. So that's pretty quick and easy to do. Okay. Now we actually have that plane that we can use later on when we're doing the back pieces. So let's insert the back leg. So number 4 is the back leg. So we want the back leg first. And we'll mate the outsides. Okay. And some people are going to say, well, how far up and down? Well, obviously the bottoms have to be even. So rotate around and just make the bottoms even. And if that thing drug it in, just drag it out. And then we want the insides touching here. So that's nice. Pretty easy. Now we can go back and insert our next part. Our next part here is number 6, which is the medium one. So back medium leg. And we'll mate. And the bottom of this thing is actually even with the bottom of the entire base. So we'll just select here. Green check. Rotate up and around. And this kind of went inside. So I'm going to pull this away. Select there and select here. So I added that glue in between. Okay. And now it can still slide this way. It can still slide left or right. So how far away do we actually put this? Well, going back to this direction, we haven't looked at this yet, but it does say offset 2.5 apart. So in between here is 2.5. So we just need to add an offset in between here. So just rotate around, select the inside, rotate, select the other inside, like you were basically kind of connecting those two. But instead, you want to add a distance in between. So hit the distance button here and type in 2.5. And if yours goes the opposite way, it's probably because you have this flip direction button. So if it's like this, you need to uncheck that and it'll add that distance in between. Then you can hit the green check. Then the next thing we need to bring in is the middle one. So insert component, and we want the back middle leg, and that is part number 5. So insert. We'll hit mate, rotate around here, and just make the bottoms even. And instead of trying to pull that thing out, I'm just going to make these even, so the fronts of them, of these two parts. And just drag this over. And since I made that even, as you can kind of see, it's right up against, because the front of this is up against. So we can once again put that offset in between here. So make sure there's a distance of 2.5. Green check. And now that part is in. That's all good. So let's put the birdhouse on here next. Insert component. And we want the birdhouse itself. Hit open. So we're going to make the front of this and the back of this piece be right up against one another. The outsides are even. So make sure you're clicking this one that's the medium leg. And then the tops are even. So all we have to do is just click this top line and click the top line here. And it should drag them up. Okay. Now this thing should be stuck on there. Obviously this isn't a real bird house. This is just for decoration. Okay. So now we need to insert the roof. So if you didn't download this already, make sure you go back to the directions file, the directions page, and the roof is right there. You can download it. Just to kind of show you, if you click on this thing, it should take you into a Google Drive folder here, and it just says download. So just hit download. If you're not using Google Chrome and it doesn't look like this, look for that little download symbol somewhere and you should be able to download it. But I actually have this in my other folder as well, so I'll just open that, insert that little tin roof, and now we can kind of mate these. So let's do the top of this and up underneath, so those two get connected, and then rotate around to the back and do the back of this wooden board. You're going to have to zoom in here because you want to make sure you click on the flat part here, not a line. Okay, it should bring that thing forward. And then this thing can still slide up and down on that angle. So if we click underneath the opposite side and on top here, it should slide right back down and drop it in. So remember, it's always 3 mates to get something fully defined. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it's always been that way for me. So that is fully defined now. Okay. Now we have this one side done. So let's kind of mirror it to the other side. So let's go to mirror component, or a linear component pattern, and mirror component. And for the plane, if we hit that drop down, remember we made that plane earlier. So that's plane 1 right in the middle here still. And for components, we want this leg, we want this leg, we want the birdhouse, and the birdhouse roof. Okay, so you should have 4 things. Green check, it should place them right over there for you. So this entire thing now should be fully defined, as it says there. So if we unlock this assembly, so if we right click and hit float, this entire thing should move together, and it does. So we are 100% finished. Okay, so you can save this. You can move on to your next assignment.